Hello and welcome to another episode of All Elite Arcade, your home for video games discussions here at AW Games. I am your co-host, Evil Uno, here with the Chugs. How are you doing, Chugs?
I'm doing great, Uno. How are you?
I'm doing good. And honestly, it's been a good week for video games for me, and I know for you especially. You know, we spent the last month talking about your history with your travels and your move, and I don't know if you're watching the YouTube feed, youtube.com/awgames, you'll see the video feed. You are not on your cell phone anymore. You're in a full room. It begins. Your man cave is starting to grow. You're starting to build it.
It's starting to come together. I mean, I definitely still have a long ways to go as far as building this into the ultimate game cave. Again, it's been like a dream of mine to have a huge basement filled with anything and everything video games, which I'm still in the process of doing. There are still a bunch of boxes that need to be unloaded and a bunch of things that I want to do within this game room setup or this game cave setup. But not only am I situated here and not on my phone anymore, but most importantly, I do have my stream setup ready to go because I did return to Twitch streaming this week, which was so awesome. So again, I do want to say this, a huge shout out to the Chugs Army on twitch.tv/thechugs, just the absolute best community in the world. I was so excited, so pumped to get back on stream, and it didn't disappoint. Honest to God, if anything, I've been able to stream, I'd say like 3 times since last week's episode that we shot, and I wish it could have been even more, but nonetheless, 3 times is better than none. And Uno, I did continue the Elden Ring DLC, and I made quite a bit of progress, my friend.
Well, it's been a big week for Twitch because both of us returned to playing video games. Both of us playing the Elden Ring DLC. We talked off screen about it a little bit. I think we're both at the same point now, so now we can freely talk about everything that's going on.
Right.
We're both at the boss, and I don't know how many attempts you've done. I might be at 100 attempts now. I don't know I might actually have to call people in to beat this thing because, and just in case you're wondering, the
All Elite Arcade spoiler warning.
Big spoilers coming up. Radon is the last fight in the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and I don't even know if there's a third phase to this fight. I can't get beyond half of its bar. Yeah. I'm having, I wouldn't say the worst time because I'm still enjoying myself. This is by far the hardest boss I've fought in this DLC. I don't know if it would be the hardest of all time, but I can think Millennium might be the other one that I spent so much time on.
Sure.
But I always felt like I was close with that one. This one, I don't know. I'm going to need like that one God run where everything just hits perfectly, or he gets stuck like in an animation and doesn't attack me for maybe 6 seconds. I can do some damage. I cannot, for the life of me, beat him at all. What about you? Like, do you feel like you're making a dent in this?
Well, interestingly enough, I do want to mention this is because I know we did discuss the final boss or this huge boss with Radon being involved with the Shadow of the Erdtree. But Uno, I didn't know exactly how that final boss was going to be presented. So it still felt like such a shock to me to experience the way that I did. Like, I was like, oh my God, because I've said this before. One of the things I just want to mention this quickly is in Dark Souls 1, to me, my personal favorite boss is a DLC boss, and his name is Artorias. And I love the concept and the idea of Artorias being like badly beaten and destroyed. Like his main arm is really, really messed up. So he's fighting you at kind of half of what he's capable of doing. So jumping into this final boss fight with Shadow of the Erdtree, like fighting a young Radon blew my mind, by the way, because I really didn't know that's exactly how that encounter was going to go. And then on top of that, getting to the point where Mikola shows up and is like on top of Radon, very similar to the Dark Souls 3, the Lothric Knight or the Lothric King boss that you fight. Which is one of the best bosses in Dark Souls 3, was so cool to me. So I'm so glad that I got to experience that for the first time on stream, which was super, super cool. But to answer your question, yes, I have had a lot of trouble. Now, truth be told, I've only attempted the boss twice.
Okay, wow. And you met the that second phase hits when you're a third into the fight. I don't know if there's a third phase because I've never gone beyond half, but it's
good point because I don't know either, but I will say my first attempt and Uno, I did not use Mimic. I mean it. I did not use Mimic. Yes.
Well, you are a braver man than I am.
I did get to at least that second phase. You're right. I don't know if there is a third phase or not. But the second try, I got absolutely demolished. I think many people who play Soulsborne games or Elden Ring games know that sometimes your first attempt will go so well, and then you'll try again, and for the next 10 tries, you just get absolutely destroyed. That's kind of what happened to me. I had a really, really good first attempt. Then the second attempt, it did not go so well. I didn't even make it to the phase where Mikola ended up showing up. However, I did stop myself, Uno, because I do have a tendency to be a little bit of a completionist when it comes to these games that I really love.
And both of us want to do every side piece we can, of course.
Yes, exactly. So I realized that I still have this giant piece of the map that I had never found the map fragment for, or I've not explored, or bosses that I potentially never fought. So I actually stopped to look up. I had to actually look up how to find the final map fragment because I could not figure it out. It ended up being under a waterfall or a body of water that I totally missed. So now I'm currently exploring this whole final area within the Elden Ring DLC and discovering how huge this area is, how many more bosses there are. I fought a bear mini boss, which was really cool. I'm getting all new items, fighting all new enemies. I just can't. I know we've talked about this so many times, but I just can't reiterate how amazing it is, the size of this DLC.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping this week or by the time next week that we get to talk about what we're playing, that I will be able to say that I finished the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, but I don't know. It just keeps getting bigger, man.
I'm at the same phase where, well, you did 2 attempts. I did 100 and then decided that maybe it's time for me to look elsewhere and complete everything else. I have all the map fragments, but there's a big portion of the map, the whole sliver, that I don't have a single point of grace, and I'm pretty certain that means I haven't explored any of it, and so I probably have a bunch of things too. I might be at that point like you where I have to open up a guide and start at least looking where some of the bosses might be, because I feel like I beat all the bosses I'm aware of, with the exclusion of, I know there is an optional boss that we talked about off screen, and once again, big spoilers here, big spoilers. If you don't want to know about this boss, a big dragon boss, right? Very similar to the optional boss that was in the original game. I haven't even found that. I haven't even found this one. Have you? Have you found this optional one?
I have. Yes. I have beaten the optional huge dragon fight within the Elden Ring DLC. However, I remember when I did fight this boss, and this was a couple of weeks ago, that my chat kept saying oh, Chugs, I wish so bad that you would have brought in a certain NPC to help you with the fight, because his dialogue is amazing. And I didn't know what they were talking about. And then I looked it up, and it's amazing. It's iconic.
Did I kill the NPCs? Iconic. Do you think? Because did you do that part before Radon?
So I did have an NPC that helped me, or at least he shows up.
I was given during this fight, you mean during the
for the Radon fight?
No, just before the Radon fight, I was given the option to fight the NPCs.
I know what you're talking about.
And I wasn't sure if it was the right move, but they're dead. They didn't take more than one run. I was like, I'll give it a shot. They died. And now I don't know. First try. And
wow.
I'm uncertain if I've just locked myself out from all the story, because those were the people that were giving me all the story beats every time I would get to a new part of the map.
Yes.
Is one of those characters the one that would help me during this dragon fight?
Well, one of those characters was one who helped me within the Radon fight. So for me, but here's what I'm saying is the person who helped me also helped me in that NPC fight that you're talking about.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so that's a
it was
different
not
character.
someone
I
that
might not
fought-
have interacted with them.
Yes. Right.
Okay, one last question. Mostly because you've looked into it and not me.
Sure.
There is a character in it that's like a priest that they tell you to fight. Have you been able to interact with this character? So like early on in you meet with the same three characters I'm talking about that you meet right before Radon. The names escape me, so this is not going to be very interesting to listen to. But within that, they start talking about meeting a priest that you don't talk to. You have to just fight. And so I've met this priest. It's at like the second point of grace as I walk through. And so I just punched them, and he turned into vapor and disappeared. And now I'm like, there's got to be more of this character I'm unaware of. Have you met this person, or is it just me?
Interesting. I don't know exactly who you might be discussing.
Okay.
Because immediately when you said priest, I thought of another character that I met and spoke to who you definitely cannot fight. Absolutely. And he's led me in all these different ways or all these different areas with the fingers, which is really interesting.
So I haven't done any of the fingers stuff, and I heard there's a big fingers boss too. So
Okay,
all right. There's more for me to discover.
There is so much. There is so much incredible detail and so many different characters and NPCs. Where again, I even think on this first playthrough, and I put quite a bit of time. Uno, you as well have put so much time into. I know that when we eventually finish this, both of us are going to go back on YouTube and go, "Oh my God, I missed this, or I missed that,
or I locked
missed
myself out of a whole section,
unbelievable."
Yeah, I'm excited. That's part of my the phase I like the most about these games. Elden Ring was the same thing. I got to the final boss, I finished it, and I was like, okay, I'll check what I missed, and then realized that there's a whole like chunk of the game I was unaware. There's full side stories I locked myself out of because I did I think it was Ronnie. Is that the Yes, so in the Elden Ring one, and so I didn't do the fingers section, so I redid a save and did that part. It was like that's the beauty of these games. You can tackle them in any way you want, but you also get to re-explore them afterwards and essentially play a second version of the game on your second run. So I'm anticipating my next run during this will be easier, and hopefully I'm still using the Mimic Tier as a crutch, and I kind of want to get away from that on my next run.
Well, hey, no shame, by the way, in
not
using
at all.
Mimic
by
Tier.
design.
I used it quite a bit. Miyazaki himself has said that is more than okay. But
that's right.
I did make a rule with the Chugs Army, with my Twitch chat, where we said I have to die to a boss at least 3 times before I use Mimic Tier.
Okay,
and I'm like,
smart.
you know what? That's a fair rule. That's a fair rule. So
if
that's
you
what we're
get to
doing.
Radon and you beat him without him on your third try,
there's no way.
Kudos to you. I'll get a tattoo of your name if so. Actually, I should. You know what? I take that back. I will not do that. Just in case. Just in case. Have you played anything else? Because you've been streaming there 3 times. You did mostly the DLC, right?
Yeah. Most of it. Again, I still have this final area that I have to go through. I've not been able myself to play a ton of anything else, with the exception of, like I said, the Elden Ring DLC. Again,
you're still unboxing and stuff, so.
Exactly. I'm still in the process of that and moving into this new beautiful home that I love. So yeah, that's been pretty much it. But Uno, have you played anything else?
Yeah, so I've actually I've jumped into a handful of older games, but also a few newer independent games. One of them was I played Thank Goodness You're Here, almost to completion. I think it's only 4 hours in length, and I played about 3 hours. I just happened to leave before I bought it on my PlayStation, but it's available on Steam and on Switch, and I believe Xbox as well. But it's a point and click game, but it's a heavily humorous point and click game. It's less about intense puzzles, and it's more about the banter and the interactions you get with the characters. And so it's situated in like a little British village, and you are a handyman that you have to go around the city and fix things, but really it's about interacting with things. And the way you interact with things is you slap them. So rather than like, it's a one button game. You just press this one button and it does everything. Okay. But as you interact with things, it'll unlock other sections, or if you interact with one character, that character will then move to another section to interact with another character. And truthfully, it's if you're not into point and click games, it may not be your deal because it is just a lot of. It's not heavy on gameplay because it's just traversal and interacting with things, but it's got an immense amount of charm. I really like the art style, and the humor reminds me a lot of like Monty Python and a lot of like British humor stuff. It's very dry, but it's really up my alley in the way that a lot of other like heavy on humor games might not be. Just because a lot of times when I say a game is funny, it really only hits like one tone. This hits the tone that I want. So I played about 3 hours of that. I will definitely be finishing it. It's cheap too. It's only $20. So if that sounds interesting to you, I would. If you're into point and click games and you want something humorous and light and short, because that is why I wanted to jump into it, it's been really good. Try out Thank Goodness You're Here for sure. Other than that, we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I talked about how Netflix has independent video games now on mobile devices. They also release like some pretty major stuff that is dropping on Steam and on Xbox, on PlayStation. Just they're the only ones that distribute it on mobile devices. I played a new one called Arranger, which is like a tile puzzle game, but instead of it being like a bunch of like singular tile puzzles, it's a entire map that you traverse by doing tile slides, and then you solve puzzles as you go through the rooms, interact with characters. Cool. Use the slide puzzle mechanic to move like an item from one room to another room to interact with another puzzle. So it's really scratched this itch of like puzzle solving I've wanted from a little video game. And because it's been on my phone, it's been very, very useful because I've traveled back and forth to Dallas. As you know, like when we're wrestlers, we spend so much time in airports or hotels, and sometimes you just can't connect your consoles to a TV. This has been great. I played maybe 4 hours I have no idea how close I am to the end, but it's been fairly challenging for the stuff, but not unattainable challenging. It's not a Baba Is You. It's not a The Witness. It's much simpler of an approach, but it's been neat. It's the art style's nice. I like the slide mechanic because it's not something that you see in a lot of puzzle games. And it's if you want to try that out, it's called Arranger. It's on Netflix. If you have that, you can get your mobile games on certain devices. I have an iPhone, a more recent one. You can get on that. Or I believe it's also available on Steam. Might be available on consoles as well. But I've been doing a lot of that. And then finally, because my Steam Deck died, we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
I know. It hurts my soul every week.
It hurts me
my soul every week.
Deeply, but I'm buying that new OLED one, so at least we're on the other end of it. I brought my Nintendo Switch, which I haven't done in a while. I've dusted it off, and while I wanted to play that new Nintendo World Championship game, that speedrunning game, I didn't realize it came out last week.
It did. Yeah.
It did, and so I didn't get a chance to play it just yet because I went to travel without downloading it. But I've been playing the Game Boy Advance, and I've been playing Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. Have you played that one?
Oh, let's go, Uno. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never finished the Minish Cap, but seriously, that game is so highly regarded, and for good reason.
I've never touched it. This is like, I've always heard about it, but for whatever reason, I always pictured it as like another one of the Link of the Past games where I was like, oh, I've played this map so many times, I don't really want to play this. And then this time I was like, oh, well, this is like one of the only Zelda games I've never gone to play. It's pretty interesting. It has like mechanics in it that I didn't anticipate. I also didn't know Capcom made this game, which is like, not often does Nintendo let another developer use their IP and build stuff. So it's a joint Nintendo and Capcom game. And what's different about this one is obviously you play Link. You gotta save Zelda, but it presents you with the regular Link to the Past map. But then you realize fairly quickly the gimmick of this one is that you wear the Minish Cap and it then makes you small or large. So what you don't realize is you might go into a map and there are elements of it that are just like microscopic that once you like become smaller, you can interact with. I haven't done the other side of it, but I am aware that you will become bigger on certain parts of the map. I don't know why I've never played this one. It's really good.
Right. Yeah. There are so many games and situations, like specifically with the Legend of Zelda franchise, where I was so upset that I didn't play it sooner. Like for example, I mean this: the Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, the remake that they released on Switch, is in my top 3 favorite Zelda games of all time. And I never played the original Link's Awakening on Game Boy Color. I never did. And then like getting to play through it, just all the devs involved in creating the Legend of Zelda are so interesting and unique. The stories are awesome. The concepts and theories are awesome. So I'm so glad you're enjoying it, because you're making me want to go back and do a fresh file and go through the Minish Cap for sure.
And a lot of like awesome. the handheld devices have their own Zelda games that you can completely miss out. Like 3DS didn't sell an immense amount, but they have their own Zelda game, and it rules. That like I don't know if everyone loves that train one, but to me, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it rules. Like if we're talking Zelda games, a lot of the handheld games are immense games. We're talking like 20, 30-hour experiences in your hands, and like well before you could play giant like. You can play DK2 and finish in like 6 hours, whereas these Zelda games are full experiences, huge RPGs or huge like huge. And so it's been really neat to go back to Minish Cap, and it also makes me want to jump back into Four Swords because I never completed that one either. And so if you've got a Switch and you're not utilizing the console elements of it, like the GBA, the Sega Genesis, the N64, they drop games every month. And they dropped more recently some Pokemon games. Go out of your way. Go check it out. There's a ton of gems out there, even from the past, that if you think you've played everything, even I'm like, I feel like I played every major game ever, but I missed out on some of those gems. And Switch has been a great console for that.
So good.
That is it for what we've played today, but that is not all that is going to be happening on this good old podcast. We'll be right back with some news right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back to All Elite Arcade. We're going to be talking the news of the week. It's August. I can't believe we're already here. I say this, I think, every single month. The time goes by quickly in the world of video games, in the world of pro wrestling. And we've got a bunch of news, and I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of news coming up because Gamescom is just around the corner. We've got all of our major game releases will be coming out in the next few months. But there have been some releases this week, and one including one that I definitely want to jump into. Doom 1 and Doom 2 have just been re-released because I think this is like the 4th re-release of those initial games. You probably played Doom on... Honestly, you can play it on anything. I've seen it run on microwaves. I've seen it run on calculators. It's one of those games that people are capable of making run out of anything. I've seen a potato operate a device that was running Doom. Like, that's how crazy and simplistic Doom's coding is they're capable of implementing into so much stuff. Anyways, they've just released what they claim is the definite version of Doom 1 and Doom 2. This was announced at QuakeCon 2024 this year. They've gotten their new re-releases that are available today on all consoles and PC. If you had the previous versions, you get a free upgrade to all of these updates to it. You get Doom 1 and Doom 2 with this bundle. You get all the master levels for Doom 2. Those were later additions to Doom 2, essentially what is DLC, but they were created by other users, and then they bundled all of the best ones into what is called the master levels. TNT Evolution, which I believe is a full side story to Doom that they've just decided to tack on. This was, I believe, was also fan-made, but then just becomes like part of the larger experience. The Plutonia Experiment, No Rest for the Living, Sigil. These are all things based off Doom. A brand new episode that's never been released. So brand new Doom, if you want, in there, called Legacy of Rust. It's made by Night Dive Studios and Machine Games. So, some pretty big developers.
Huge.
It's the newest episode of Doom, and it's the first official episode since Doom 2 to feature new demons and weapons. So it's got new weapons, it's got brand new sprites for demons, and they built a new deathmatch map that a map pack that features 25 new maps to Doom, and they upped up the amount of users you can play on multiplayer to 16 players. You can now play multiplayer death matches up to 16, as well as co-op up to 16. Full 120 hertz, full 4K, a brand new soundtrack, and it's also still compatible with every community mob that was made over the last 25 years. An insane package, and like people who have been playing, I like Doom, and I like Doom 2.
Love Doom.
I've never delved in deep into like the modded community and the side stories and the new episodes, but this seems like the most inviting package of Doom ever. They say it's a definite edition. I don't think they'll ever re-release it again. We say that now, but in another 25 years, someone will definitely do it again. But people who have played Doom, who are heavy into Doom, are giving this crazy ratings. If you are a Doom fan, let us know in the comments down below, because I need to know how big this is to you. I love Doom, and I cannot reading what is coming out with it. It makes me feel like this is an immense package for something that is only $9 on your platform. But I need to know how important this is to you, because a new episode of a game that's 30 years old is insane.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Uno, is because I'm with you in that Doom is so important to me as well. The first-person shooter genre is absolutely one of my favorites. And I often have said, and I think many people would agree, that the Halo franchise kind of brought the FPS to console in a lot of ways. But I think without question, Doom is responsible for making the FPS genre on PC and just in general incredibly popular. I mean, there's a reason this franchise has been so important, so special, and so loved for so many years. So to be able to see Doom 1, Doom 2 being re-released or remastered or remade in this way is very, very exciting. I'm definitely going to grab my hands on, especially for $9.99. That's unbelievable.
And it's available on almost like all platforms. It's if you have a laptop that can only run low-res games, there's no way it can't run Doom.
Yep.
It's even with all these extra features, there's no way it can't run it. I'm definitely going to be jumping into this. I'm sure by next week we'll talk about it, because knowing about this and not knowing about it while I was traveling, I now know what I'm going to play for the next week for sure.
Right.
Some other video game news. This one is about Remedy Games, the people that made Alan Wake 2. They've just now disclosed that Max Payne 1 and 2, they were the developers of it. They're getting remakes, and not only are they getting remakes, they've confirmed that they've entered in full production. So they're now actually like, we're not that far from seeing some footage of it for sure. And they have a ton of other projects. Obviously, Alan Wake 2 just came out. The DLC is being worked on and will be likely coming out later in this year. Originally, it was said to be released by October. We'll see if that happens. But Control 2, if you do not know, a lot of Remedy games, all of their games start attaching to each other. So Control 2 would be the next game you want to play if you enjoyed Alan Wake 2 for sure. The sequel is now in an important portion of it where they're trying to deliver a build of the game that they can showcase several important features in playable form. So they're now probably for a year away from release. They're probably at that form where they want to have stage show form, where they're capable of bringing it to a stage show, probably Tokyo Game Show, since that'll be the next big one.
Yeah, probably right.
To be playable, to see a few of the levels before they start advertising it. So that's a huge thing. And then on top of that, they're working on their only multiplayer game right now, which is a live service spin-off from Controlled that is called Condor. I don't know if they will actually be called Condor. That is their test name. Well, they are now in a phase where they've built full productions on multiple maps and different mission types, and are now ironing those out and developing more. So that is also advancing tremendously. So there's still, if you're into Remedy games, they have a whole library of stuff still to come in the next 2 years. Very excited, especially for me. Like, I love Alan Wake. I love the continuation of it. But Max Payne 1 and especially Max Payne 2 were a revelation to me when they came out. That bullet time stuff, to me, was the coolest thing to ever happen.
And Remedy just has such an unbelievable track record. For a lot of people, when Control 1 came out, that was their game of the year. And again, like we had discussed, Alan Wake 2, absolutely incredible. I'm actually very excited about the idea of getting to play Max Payne 1 and 2 remake, because I actually never really played the original Max Payne games. But I do know this, Uno. Fun little side note. My good buddy Roderick Strong, at one point when he was in college, he's discussed with me multiple times that when Max Payne came out, he was obsessed. He could not put his hands down. He could not stop playing Max Payne and how amazing this game was. So I'm going to make sure after this podcast, I tell Roddy that there's going to be a Max Payne 1 and 2 remake coming, and we're going to see if we can get Roddy back into games.
I know we talked about this a little bit. He's been dabbling in some of it. Obviously, he is a child now, and so that helps a ton. But considering how obsessed he was with Max Payne 1 and 2 when he was younger, I bet you we can get him to play this new one for sure.
I think so too. We show him a trailer, let him play the first level. It's going to be over.
Let him have that bullet time for like 2 minutes. I mean, it's. I remember I would play through that entire game in one sitting, and then a few days later would do it again. Like that first one is really, really good. And Max Payne 2 the story is incredible. Well worth playing for sure. Some more news. Kingmakers, the upcoming game where you are essentially one man who has access to guns in medieval times. You might have seen trailers of it where a bunch of knights in armor are fighting each other, and then one guy shows up on a horse with a machine gun and just starts destroying everyone. The trailer sold me on the game. It's only been in early access. It doesn't even have a full release date yet. Well, guess what? Doesn't matter, because there's been so much interest in it that it's already struck a movie deal. There will be a Kingmakers movie. This is from the people from Tiny built this. And a Dredge, Sifu, Disco Elysium, Vampire Survivors, and more recently the Tomb Raider stuff. Story Kitchen. They're also known for the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, so they've been taking a lot of video game properties. It would seem that they have now shopped Kingmakers, and Kingmakers will be made. I guess it was. I understand it, because it is. If you show this to anyone, you understand the appeal of it. It's like this weird power fantasy. It's what is better than the sword than a gun? Well, you get to see it in action in these situations, and you get to. Essentially, you have like a giant map where you can actually control every individual army to set them to fight each other, and then that's from an overview, and then you can zone into the specific fights and call upon your one warrior with the weaponry and just wreak havoc to all of it. It looks really interesting. I haven't dabbled in the early access yet. But very excited to see what a movie will be about it as well.
Me too. Especially with, again, these video game to movie TV show adaptations have been very successful. So I'm very interested to see this, especially with this concept. Mm-hmm. It certainly seems interesting. And again, the Sonic movies are great.
Yes.
So I think Kingmakers is in good hands.
Yeah, Sonic 1 and 2 were surprising how good they were good. Because I remember the original trailer when people had were mad about the art style used for Sonic. Most people just anticipated it being no fun. And honestly, most of the time until more recently, when a video game movie was announced, when Super Mario was announced, there was no faith in how good it would be. We
Yep.
just assume it would be trash because for years we've been given trash movies for video games. Both the Mario movie, both the Sonic movies as well, have been tremendous. They've done great work. There's a ton of great fan service and surprisingly fun family movies as well. This will not be a family movie, I don't think, but...
Right. Which again, though, just makes, I think it makes gamers really happy. Because, I mean, obviously, this is like a general statement to make. But again, these games mean so much to us and these characters mean so much. So the fact that that type of appreciation is taken to these franchises and then brought to the movie screen or the TV screen is just wonderful. It really, really is.
Well, on the other side of this, as good as the movies have been for video games, the Borderlands movie just came out, and initial reviews for it are not good. To give you an idea, Rotten Tomatoes' average score of it is 9%, which is ridiculously low. I know how much this hurts you because you're a huge Borderlands fan, but critics have called it a complete mess, saying that they've been blasting the film because it has lack of chemistry between any of the actors, lack of humor, poor CGI, and not even respecting the source material. So it doesn't even, on fan service levels, it would seem people are mad on that level as well. With some of the only positives being that Cate Blanchett and Jack Black are good actors and therefore hold some of the movie together. You're a huge Borderlands fan. Were you excited at all for this? I kind of saw this one coming. They did not seem to push this one as hard as I think that a lot of the other video game movies that were coming up.
Yeah, no, Uno, I was really excited. Again, I mean this wholeheartedly, but the Borderlands franchise is one of my top 5 favorite video game franchises ever. Like, I've said this before. I know when I wrestled at All In that match, my gear was patterned after Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2, who is my favorite video game villain of all time. I think that world and that environment is so interesting. It's funny, it's organic, and it's just different. And I think for a lot of Borderlands fans, this was something a lot of us were really excited about. So I personally have not seen the movie yet, so I can't pass my own judgment. But this does bum me out to hear that it's been received so poorly. Not only because, again, video game movies and TV shows have just been crushing it across the board lately, but because Borderlands does mean a lot to a lot of people, me specifically. So this is a bummer. Again, there is a small part of me that's hoping that when I do watch this movie, because I'm definitely going to, that I will be able to appreciate it and enjoy it and things like that. But obviously, this is not a good sign. And truth be told, if they do end up making another one, maybe that one will be received better.
It could be, yeah.
It is heartbreaking. It really, really is. Because I do again, Borderlands is such an amazing gaming franchise. So we'll see, I guess. But yeah, this is certainly a bummer.
The surprising thing though is it could be essentially a bad movie, but if financially it does okay, they will make another one. And that second go around might actually be better. I kind of anticipated this is Borderlands 1 and 2, especially Borderlands 2 has a special place in my heart as well. It was one of those co-op games. It had at the time comedy that I actually was interested in, that I found funny. Borderlands 3 came out and it kind of felt, it wasn't a bad game. I enjoyed the shooting elements. I enjoyed the co-op elements of it, but it felt in a lot of ways that it lost some of the humor of the first 2 games. And I'm not entirely surprised a Borderlands video game movie does not hit that point of humor, because the teams that work on those first 2 are not the same people that work on this or on the later games, and those ideas come from specific people. It's very hard to try and reproduce that. So I'm not entirely surprised. I will say I'm still going to watch it.
Me too. 100%.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll go to the theaters. It might be a plane movie for me or at home movie, but I know that even if people, and now and if I'm being frank with people, I like when people hate on a movie because I go in with low expectations and almost always I come out enjoying it way more. when people tell me the movie is good, I come in with high expectation. I never end up enjoying it as much. So, unfortunate. We'll see if it actually financially does well, because I don't think a bad movie review will affect it that much. It's still a huge franchise in the video game world. But we'll see if that franchise means any views to the general public.
Right, definitely.
And then finally, our last piece of news this week, Black Myth Wukong, the Chinese-developed, what is essentially a Souls-like game, third-person role-playing game, is coming out August 20th. So this will be about 8 days once this podcast releases. Well, there's been a ton of people who have had hands-on previews, who have dropped their pre-reviews on it, and most based on solely what has been released as of yet, this might be one of the best looking action RPGs in years, which is crazy because Elden Ring just came out. It is currently the #1 global top seller and most wishlisted game on Steam. It got an immense boost once pre-reviews came out, and it's got obviously a ton of great feedback from the people who have played it. But rumors also say that while it's not only a good game, it's a huge game. It will have New Game Plus, which means you can get a second run with your current statted up character. It has
multiple too, right?
Yes,
New Game Plus at launch.
Launch, it will have multiple endings. Ooh, yes. That to me, that always entices me for sure.
Yes.
Over 160 enemy types and over 80 bosses in the video game. Yeah, it's looking really good. If you have not looked up Black Myth Wukong, there's a ton of videos, including some pre-release video game footage from it. I'm immensely excited. I know this is the type of game you are as well.
Yes.
There's 2 games this month I know I was going to jump into. That's one of them. Star Wars is coming out the next week. I'm actually hoping I can finish Elden Ring in time for this, because I would like to give this some of my attention.
Uno, I'm completely on the same page with you. Like, my goal is, if this week I can finish the Elden Ring DLC, which, you know what? I think we're going to do it.
I think we're going to do it.
We're going to put that out in the universe. I think we are going to finish it this week. But yes, this game just looks so unbelievably awesome. And again, when you get the reviews back and you hear the positive response, it does nothing but makes me even more excited. And like you said, Star Wars Outlaws as well. Like, it's going to be a good month. It's going to be a really, really good month.
Real good month for video games. And hopefully you will be playing along with us as we play Black Myth Wukong. Hey, but that's not it for this podcast. We'll be right back after this break to talk to you about your questions in our community mailbag segment right after this. And we're back. All Elite Arcade community mailbag. That's right. You, our listeners, can send your questions, and myself and the Chugs answer them right here on All Elite Arcade every single week. Go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag. That's tbs.com/arcade mailbag to get your questions answered here on the community mailbag segment. All right, we have 4 questions today, and then finally, for once, you can actually see these questions now that you have a computer in front of you.
Yes.
So I will take the first one. You take the second. We'll go from there. 4 big questions.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank goodness. After weeks. Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. This one's from Declan. Thank you, Declan, for your questions. Yo, Chugs and Uno, huge fan of both of you guys and love the podcast. Thank you very much. As you guys know, there are certain games that have fallen out of favor over the years. Space fighter sims like X-Wing and Freelancer, RTS games like StarCraft Command and Conquer, music games like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, arcade racing games like Daytona USA, and Sega Rally Championship games all seem to have been lost to time. In your opinion, what game genre do you feel have the possibility of fading away next? That's actually, Declan, I want to say that is a great question.
That is a great question.
We're actually seeing some releases for some of those, because like the RTS style is trying to make a comeback. The music style, Rock Band is essentially integrated into Fortnite now, but it is not the immense genre that it used to be. You're not getting, a monthly release for these. I honestly, this will sound rude, but I think we're gonna start moving away from VR again.
I can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Wait, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I want to believe in VR, but I also see that financially it is a huge hit on any developer that makes one. It's hard to make a return on it. And it's an experience that's hard to share with others because you can't share footage. You can, but it's very hard to do.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's like the point of view of it is different. And then on top of that, there's such a large... First, it's expensive. Secondly, people get sick. You know, like, I know you enjoy it. I know I enjoy it, but you can only enjoy it for a certain amount of time. I can't do it for too long because the weight on my neck is crazy, having that headset on. So while I do think VR will come back around later on and will be perfected, I feel like we're already on the downtrend of it, and I feel like we're slowly going away, and we're not going to see an immense amount of VR games in the coming years.
I completely agree with what you said. And again, not even meaning it in a bad way per se, because I do think VR experiences are absolutely wonderful. But I think there was this like genuine excitement because it was something new. And obviously, you can still have amazing experiences. We're seeing like some VR games getting like 10 out of 10s on like review sites and things like that. It's really, really awesome. But I do feel like Uno, I'm just in complete agreement with you. I feel like that is kind of fading away. I hope it never goes away. I hope it does stay within this video game world. But I do feel like it's faded a little bit more even recently, where it's starting to, than even it was 2 years ago, for example. So yeah, I'm in complete agreement.
Yeah, if you're looking at, like, let's say PSVR 2 has stopped really releasing large games, and instead of doing that, have released an adapter so that you can play the previous PC games that have been done. And if you look at like Steam charts, there's not an immense amount of VR games that make it to global top sellers, and there's not a lot in the upcoming section either. So I think slowly we're going to start seeing people move away until those devices become cheaper, and then there'll probably be a resurgence eventually, because at some point we'll figure out how to play those without the nausea. We'll figure out what perspective is needed to entice people. But until I think Nintendo decides to make a Mario game or to do like their big thing, or Minecraft 2 is strictly on VR or something like that, I don't think we're going to see, unless we have an immense developer work and to develop an immense, unique VR game for cheap, I don't think we will see a lot of VR games release in the next coming years.
Right. Thank you so much. Yeah, very much appreciated. Next up, we have Emily. Emily, thank you for your question. Hey, Chugs and Uno, love the podcast. I listen every Wednesday on my way to work. Also, shout out to Chugs. I don't get to watch your streams as often as I'd like because I'm a chef and work long hours, but it was great seeing you back doing what you love, and can't wait to see the game room. Can't wait to see you back in the ring as well. Thank you, Emily. Mwah. I love you. I appreciate that. My question is, if a video game developer came to you and said, we want to put you in our new game, who would you go with and why? Ooh.
All right, I'm gonna give a blanket statement. I'm up for sale. I'll be in your video game right now. If you want me in your video game, just communicate with me. I'll do it. I want to be in your video games. If I was going to be precise with something, I think like involving me in a fighting game would be incredible. We're on Warner Brother channels right now. They have multiverses. If you want to make Evil Uno in multiverses, please. I have an email. Send me your information. I'll gladly sell myself for cheap. And I would love to do that.
Yes, and Emily, based off what you were saying, and Uno, based off your answer, I completely agree. The idea of being a video game character in any capacity is something that I would absolutely love to be involved in. Of course, been lucky enough to be in some wrestling games and things like that. But as far as like a new character, that would be so exciting. And I do have a couple specific ones. I think number one for me is, again, for anyone who knows me, they know how much I love Halo. Absolutely love the Halo franchise. To be a character in any capacity within the Halo universe would be like a dream come true for me. That's like literally a lifelong goal of mine. So again, that would be so cool. But also, again, The Witcher is one of my favorite video games of all time. And I know they're making some new Witcher games. So to be a character in The Witcher would also be very, very cool. So I don't know, lots of different cool possibilities. But yes, thank you so much, Emily, for your question. But me and Uno just want to be in games. That'd be so cool.
I'd love honestly, to be in some games. If you have a little independent game and it makes sense, I would love to be a part of it. I was actually, I've been a part of independent games before. Duck Game, there was a Player Uno mask available. Player Uno was in Guacamelee 1 on a big billboard. So when you go into
wait, seriously?
Yeah, seriously. When you go to they're a Toronto developer, and I was at the time I would review an independent game every single day, and so they communicated with me. They're like, "Whoa, you're a luchador from Canada? Do you want to be in our Guacamelee game?" And that game rules, by the way. So when you get to the main city, I'm the first billboard. It's just an image of me that says Player Uno on it. Everything else is a joke. I'm the only real luchador in that game.
Oh my God, Uno, that's awesome. That is so awesome.
So you can do that in your video games.
I was going to say, hopefully, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, 5 years from now, hopefully me and Uno can say we've been in some more games. That'd be really cool.
Make us playable in some video games. Thank you for your question, Emily. This one is from Lane. Hey, Uno and Chugs, before I get to my question, I want to share my gratitude for the both of you. Ooh. Back when WrestleCon was here in Dallas, you both took the time to discuss Elden Ring with me. My question stems from when I first played FF7 Remake. I was talking with my little brother about how badass Cloud was. He was like, bet I will come out and watch you play. After hours of playing the game, he came to watch and was confused about what was being shown on screen. I was at the Honeybee Inn, specifically in the Corneo edition. Talk about awkward. Yes, that is probably the weirdest part of that game by far. My question is, have you ever had a significant other or family member walk in during an awkward or spicy scene of video game? Thank you for giving us a fantastic and positive show on the hobby. I'll say this.
Great question, by the way.
Great question. I'll say this. I didn't think I had this, and then I thought of a full game that my mom was constantly pissed I would play, and that is Conker's Bad Fur Day. Because this came out, and I was like young teens, and I didn't know it was full of swearing. I didn't know it was full of blood, but the thing that got my mom is there's a section, and I hope Justin, our editor, please, if you do this, censor this part, but there's a part in this video game where there's a giant flower, and the reveal is you do this mission, and then the flower reveals she has gigantic breasts. Now, look. It's a flower, but my mom walked in at the time that I was actively working on that one. She could not understand what the hell I was playing. She wouldn't let me play, and so I would have to hide at night and play it at night with no sound on as to not wake her, or go to my friend's place and play it. So I didn't think I had one of these experiences, but then it struck in my brain this weird PTSD of former flower trauma that I had in my life.
That's so great. Oh my God. Speaking of that, I did have a situation. This was back in 2015 when I first really started to get into video games. And I was playing through The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt for the very first time. All excited, ready to go. Again, I'm an adult at this point. It's okay. But I'm sitting there playing this game, and Geralt is in the middle of a very intense, intimate scene, is I guess the way that I'll put it. And Mama Chugs did walk in, and I had to explain what was going on and what was happening. But it was incredibly awkward, incredibly weird. So yes, definitely have had some situations, especially for me with The Witcher 3. I even had a situation before Uno recently where I'm replaying through The Witcher 3 on stream. And even streaming some of these scenes feels incredibly uncomfortable just with the Chugs Army. So again, I've had that with the Chugs Army. I've had that with Mama Chugs. There have definitely been some awkward moments and situations where you're playing a game and it's an uncomfortable situation.
I know during Cyberpunk, I was Twitch streaming at the time without thinking twice about the content that would be shown. And let's just say a lot of genitalia in that video game.
CD Projekt Red, they're coming in hot.
Yeah,
they're coming in hot.
They almost got my Twitch banned. So yes, Lane, thank you very much for your question. Surprisingly, it's happened to us a lot.
yes, it sure has. Thank you again, Lane. And last but not least, Kilgore with the final question says, "Hey, Uno and Chugs, longtime fan and member of the Chugs Army." Oh, thank you. This question is for Chugs. I've been a watcher of your stream since day one. I love your positivity and enthusiasm for video games, so thank you. That being said, what is the most negative video game opinion that you are willing to share? Not trying to be negative, but I thought it'd be interesting I thought it would be an interesting thought experiment. Thank you so much for the hours of entertainment. Kilgore, thank you very much for the question. Right. Appreciate you being a member of the Chugs Army. Uno, I feel like if you would like to jump in, you can. But
you could probably, if you want to have a second to think about, unless you have one.
I do think I maybe have one. And again, this is such a good question because it's hard for me. And I've said this before multiple times. I don't even know. Like, I really do. I love video games. I enjoy. I've never had a time or an experience where I've played a game and be like, I want to get out of this situation. I really do. I think the video game genre, as far as entertainment, is the coolest thing in the world. So I don't know if this would be a negative opinion or not, because it's more so just my opinion. I'm not saying they're not good, but it's just not for me. I would never, like, by choice, play a sports game, I guess, is what I would never wake up and go, I really want to play Madden, or I really want to play FIFA. Like, I can't imagine ever being in a spot where I'm like, yeah, I really, really want to play those games. Now, if I'm in a situation where I'm playing those games and a buddy of mine wants to play, or I'm on a stream, or I'm involved, like, of course I'm going to jump into that. So I don't know if that's considered like a negative opinion, but I am just not I'm not a big sports game video game player. So I don't. Hopefully that answers the question. But.
You and me both are the same on that, and I can play those games if someone else wants to play them. I'll gladly play them with them.
Yes,
but I will never make the conscious decision when I wake up to be like, I gotta play NHL today. I've got to jump into some FC. It's not.
I want to jump into a world that doesn't exist. I want to play in this realm that you can only experience through video games. Real life simulation is very cool. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really cool experiences with that, specifically with sports. But yes, Uno, exactly what you said.
Yeah, I'm all about escapism. I'm all about escapism when it comes to video games, and just sports games does not do that for me. All right, I have a few. I know I've already people still message me about the Kojima stuff. I'm not going to double down on that. I said what I said.
Don't you dare.
I said what I said, and I still believe it. But I am going to say a couple things that will make people mad. League of Legends and Dota are impossible to get into. I don't understand. Like, I know, Claudio, you love these games. I'm talking specifically to you. How the hell am I ever supposed to enjoy playing that game if it takes me 60 hours to get to a point where I can play a peaceful competitive game? I can't play a competitive game. If I can't jump into a game and feel like I have a handle on it within 2 hours, I think your game is not good. I'm sorry to say that out loud. I just think, like, if you have to teach me over a course of what is a full week's worth of shifts before I can get good, I don't think your game is good. That is my personal opinion. I think what a good video game is, if I can put my hand on it and within minutes I understand it, and it's challenging, but I at least understand the concept, you made a good game. If I have to read a 200-page book and watch 50 different 15-minute videos to understand different characters and tactics on how to play your game, maybe your game is too stupidly hard. I don't understand. Now, I will come back and say, I understand that League of Legends is really cool to watch. It has an immense fan base. It's got great lore. People really enjoy it. I just cannot get through that first initial phase of the 50 plus, 100 plus hours for me to get even remotely okay at a video game.
Well, Uno, I do not mean to chime in.
Please go in.
I do want to mention this because you just sparked something else with me. I do love League of Legends. I really do. Like, I think it is such a fun game. I love the concept, love all the different characters. But I will say a big reason that I think a lot of people stop early on is, at least in my experience, not saying everyone is like this, but as far as like playing with people that you normally don't play with, oh my goodness, it is such an aggressive and toxic environment, dude. Like, it is crazy. Like, where you're playing and you're trying to learn and you're trying to be nice and be like, oh, I'm sorry. And lots of times, again, not all the time, not everybody, but there are definitely people who are not thrilled if you're learning how to play the game. So, but anyway, sorry.
So
go ahead.
I'm now going to bounce onto my second one, just because this also leads one to the other. Call of Duty gives me the same feeling, where if you go online in Call of Duty, the online experience will make me hate your video game. I don't know why. I understand it's the people I interact with, and they're too brash and they're too rude. So that's one part. But a second part, can we stop releasing video games yearly? Can we just stop? Like, I understand you can make a Call of Duty game every year. I've played your game last year. I'm playing the same game this year, and I bought it full price. I can't do it anymore. Same with Assassin's Creed. I think the best thing that happened to Assassin's Creed is they took 1 year off. That's all that they needed to do. And guess what? By the time they came back around, I had an interest in Assassin's Creed again. But if you do it yearly, and this also brings back to the sports games, it's like an incremental change to the previous year that you might as well have released a PC patch or a patch to the previous game. That's how I see it to me. I could understand, like, for a Call of Duty game, they have campaigns, and I can understand they build a brand new campaign. You have different maps.
Yes.
But in the end, it feels like the same game. And I've played, I dabble in some, but like, it's felt like the same game since Modern Warfare 2. And they re-released those games again as part of their yearly cycle to make sure that they have a yearly cycle on these Call of Duty games. I understand it's a financial thing. People are really into Call of Duty. Everyone's super excited for a yearly game. I want a good, unique experience, and I would much rather wait an extra year for you to give me something fresh and new than to play the same recycled video game that I've spent 10 years spending money on. And that is just in relation to Call of Duty, but it could be any video game. If Hollow Knight came out every single year, I would go out of my way and tell people that Hollow Knight should stop releasing video games. And Hollow Knight is one of both of our favorite games of all time. If Silk Song came out every year, and they're like Silk Song 1, Silk Song 2, Silk Song 3, Black Ops, like, you'd be like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I don't care about it as much. I need that period of time to want to play the game, and that period of time away from a game so that it feels like it's been a huge jump up. PS4 to PS5 did not feel like an immense jump, right? And now video games do not feel like an immense jump from year to year, because in 1 year, what can we really change about video games? It's not much. And so, yes, my unpopular opinion is stop releasing games yearly if you're a part of a large video game brand. I understand the financial basis of it, and I'm sure everyone will tell me I'm wrong, but I would much rather get excited for your video game than to feel like, oh crap, it's October, Call of Duty's coming out again. Like, it seems like a recycled thing every single year, and it's starting to bother me that every month, every week, it seems like I'm playing or not me, I'm not playing them, but it seems like a game that's recycled from last year is being released, and that is sports game. That's the Forza games. That's this game. A lot of fighters now will do it differently. They'll come out with seasons with new packs and stuff, and I think that is a great model for it. You can incrementally upgrade your game every single year. But to release a full $80 game every year and it's just the same experience over and over, I think like we should get past that at some point and start making bigger and better games.
Well, and that's why these are indeed unpopular opinions or negative video game opinions.
I'm going to get destroyed for this again. That Kojima one follows me every week.
we're both going to. But seriously, thank you so much, Kilgore, for the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Kilgore. Great question, and I just needed to vent a little bit. I hope everyone's okay with that.
Get it out.
I'll be back to positive. On the next week, All Elite Arcade, I guarantee you it will be 100% positive. I will make sure of it. We just needed a little bit of negativity today. Come back and watch us next week. YouTube.com/AEW Games. That's where you can watch our video format, see our beautiful faces. Leave your comments down below. What is your negative opinion in video games? Let us know in the comments down below.
Yes,
and then hopefully,
I would love to read that, actually.
Yeah, you can take some of the heat away from me by doing so. I don't feel like mine's the worst. I feel like the Kojima one's probably the worst thing I've said for sure.
Most controversial.
Yeah, by far. Yeah. People were not happy about that one. Also, find us on all your podcast networks. We come out every single Monday with a new episode. Next week, we will be talking about the video game news, and I will talk to you about Doom 1 and 2. We appreciate you listening this week. Where can they find you, Chugs? Because you're back to Twitch streaming.
Yes, I am back on Twitch, which is awesome. So again, you can find me at twitch.tv/thechugs, looking to finish the Elden Ring DLC this week, which is very exciting. Then return to our 5-game cycle with a bunch of other great games. But yeah, please come and hang out. We got a great community.
I have no idea what I'm going to stream, but I've decided to start streaming again. I did a big stream on Elden Ring last week. We also watched some old pro wrestling. I will be back this week, twitch.tv/eviluno. Once I reach home after this Dallas trip, I will stream something. I think I'm actually going to play something probably older, like a GBA game. I've been wanting to jump back into Golden Sun, and that might be what we do on stream. Yeah, I used to play those games so much. And they're on there. They're available on the Switch. So do check us out both on Twitch, and you can follow AEW Games on every platform, Twitter or X or whatever we call it now, Instagram, so on and so forth. AEW Games, as well as YouTube.com/AEW Games. We will see you next Monday for another episode of All Elite Arcade. Bye-bye.